welcome to my classroom today. So today's lesson is all going to be about game boards. I don't know if you know this out in the YouTube universe, but Mrs. Sebastian this year is teaching a PE art course. So we're pulling in PE standards and doing art lessons with them. So today is really going to be about PE board games, but keep in mind that anything that you do with a game board can be themed in whatever way you want it to be. If you want to have art trivia instead of PE trivia, absolutely. If you want to have a drawing activity instead of doing jumping jacks, that's okay too. And it's not even limited to art and PE. It could be any theme that you want it to be. So keep that in mind as I show you how to do our PE game boards today. So today we're going to be talking about PE game boards. So get ready for some fun. So for today's game board, you're going to have at least 25 spaces. We're going to be doing a lot of drawing and coloring and adding a title to our game. And we're also going to be making a spinner so we can move our spaces. And don't forget, play it with someone. So what will be the title of your game? Make it fun, or make it silly, or make it something that's special and unique for you. Some things you'll want to include with your game board include, since this is a PE game board, let's include some sports trivia questions. But be careful, don't make them so specific to your favorite team maybe that no one else can answer them. You'll also need to include some skip spaces. Or how about fall back or roll again? So those are some of the special rules you'll want to make sure that you include with your game board. You can also add opinion questions, like who's your favorite hockey team, or Olympic sport, or maybe just winter sport. You can also include activities like do so many jumping jacks, or maybe if you can stand on one foot for 30 seconds. And will there be a reward at the end? Will you have a paper trophy to give someone, sing a victory song, or allow them to take a victory lap? Don't forget, you'll probably want to have a definite beginning and finishing point. Will your game have bridges and slides like in Chutes and Ladders? You'll also want to think about consequences for getting correct answers or doing activities correctly and wrong ones. So, for example, if you were to allow someone to spin again after getting a question correct or answering an opinion question or doing an activity, theoretically, that person could keep playing throughout the entire game by themselves. And we want everybody to have a turn. So instead, I recommend something more like, if you get it correct, or if you're doing charades, for example, and you're acting out baseball and everyone's able to get it in 15 seconds, then maybe your turn is then done and you get to stay at that spot. But if you get it incorrect answers, or let's say you're unable to do the PE activity or answer the sports trivia question correctly, then you would go back 2 spaces and then your turn would end and someone else could then take a turn. Also, don't forget who's going to go first. Is it the person who made the board? Is it going to be the youngest player, or is it going to be high number for the spinner? Those are all things you'll need to consider. Will your board game incorporate activity cards or trivia cards, or maybe charades? Hey, you don't know what charades are? That's where you act something out without talking and people try to guess what it is. Here's an example of a sports game board I found on the internet. Feel free to pause the video and look at some of the spaces that you may want to incorporate in your PE sports game. Also, don't forget this is an art lesson. We want to incorporate some beautiful art to this. Drawings and colorings of different athletic things or whatever theme works for your board. Also, keep in mind that graphic designers try to design things that people want, and we want people to play this board game. Also, think about the route. Where will the people travel on the path from the start to the finish? So that is an important thing to consider too. How many spaces should you have? This one actually I think has 64, but Miss Sebastian would be very happy with at least 25. So, how are you going to determine how many spaces to move forward? Hey, we have a great way of doing that you can make yourself. If you don't have dice, hey, why not make a spinner? Look, this just uses paper. We're going to use a paper fastener and a paper clip, and then you can flick it and see what number you get. All right, supplies that you'll need for this project include 2 pieces of paper, 1 paper for the game board and 1 for activity cards that you might decide to make. You're going to need a pencil with an eraser for drawing it, markers or crayons for coloring. You can even use a permanent marker to outline. You'll need scissors if you're going to cut out activity cards. You're going to need to have some game pieces to represent people. I am using 4 different colored beads here. And then you're going to need to make a spinner. So we're going to be using another piece of cardstock with a hole punched in the middle. A sharp pencil will do that. A paper fastener and a paper clip. And of course, your imagination. Today, we're going to be making a Chutes and Ladders style PE themed board. And that doesn't mean you can't do another style or inspirations board. For example, in the game of Clue, I could have different athletic sporting venues. Like this could be the basketball court. We could have a soccer field or football field, or maybe a hockey rink. And then the spaces that would be between it would be PE trivia or activities that you can do. Maybe the middle would be maybe it's the locker room or a gymnasium sort of a thing, and that's where you could do your accusations. And maybe instead of having who killed who, maybe it could be, maybe who won the Olympic gold medal. And you would say it was maybe the basketball player at the football field using the soccer ball, that sort of a thing. But for sure, you can definitely use your imagination and do some amazing things like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is think about which way I'm going to turn the paper. For variation, I'm just going to choose this way. And then the first thing I'm going to think about is where the beginning and end point is going to be. So I'm going to just do a rectangle here, or a square. And then I'm going to super lightly, I'm talking light here, I'm going to make a path that I want people to travel on. And I feel pretty good about this path here. And maybe we're going to end up right here. So this can become the start. And this could be the finish line. And now I need to put spaces on my pathway. So I'm going to follow along on a worksheet that I've actually made for my in-classes that are in person. And my directions are, don't forget to name your board. So we will write down the name of a board game on this. And then we're going to be also decorating it by drawing and coloring some sporty pictures. And your board needs to have at least 25 spaces with a variety of different kinds of spaces. And I have 7 listed here or more. So I really want you to try to use a lot of variety in there. And we'll talk about variety in just a moment. So for mine, I am going to try to think if I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I need to have at least 25 spaces or more, then that means I need to have maybe 6 spaces on each one at least. Because that'll give me 6 times 4 will give me 24 spaces, but I got the start and finish line. So we're going to try to add more. There's a couple of ways you can do your spaces. You could keep it just straight squares or rectangles going across. And again, you might want to start off super light to make sure you get the spacing correct. But here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I know that if I'm able to fit 7 on each line, that's going to give me at least 25 spaces. You could do circles even, like if I want to have a directional arrow where to go, I could do circles and have a line in between them, just like this here. And I can always go back and make them look prettier, for sure. Just erase, because you drew lightly. And so then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I was only able to fit 6 on this one. So really want to make sure you can do your spacing appropriately so that you can fit enough. But because I know I actually had 7 here, I think I'm okay with the 6 that are here. You can even do different other shapes for yours. Like maybe you're going to have a special thing that's going to be on the hearts when they land on it, or a special thing that will be on the circles. So you can mix them up too and not have just one style. I'm going to do a couple like this, and then maybe add another circle, and then maybe add another heart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That means I need to try to fit at least 5 spaces in here. We can do this. Yes, we can. We'll probably get more than that because I'm just going to do rectangles, I think, here. You could use a ruler for this too if you really want to make it look really neat and professional. All right, so I am super happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and just erase that light line that was here. And now I've got my plan for my game board and the directions that we are going. Then I am ready to start putting some things in the game board. So there's a variety of different ones that you can put in. You could put opinion questions like name your favorite sport. And that could be one of them. You could even put some special kinds of spaces like miss a turn. Or how about move ahead 2 spaces. You could even put any bridges or slides in there. And you know, because this is a sports theme, I think I'm going to have a race car here. Race to this space, and then when you get here you'll end your turn. All right, so I've got my little fancy race car going here. Nice. Sound effects are always appreciated. And then you can also put activities like balance on 1 foot for 30 seconds. Okay. You can also be very cautious about trivia questions. You might know all sorts of amazing stats about your favorite team, but that doesn't mean that everyone's who's going to be playing your game board with you will. So instead, you know, of saying who was the goalie for the Detroit Red Wings in the year 2008 when they won the Stanley Cup, no one's going to know that except for the people who just adore the Red Wings. So instead, what do hockey players hit with their sticks? And so you would, of course, please don't say other players. That's a foul for you, my friend. But the puck would be the appropriate answer for that. So you can ask questions like that too. That would be absolutely okay. So I'm going to put maybe name 1 baseball player. Okay. And then you're going to fill up this whole thing here with all sorts of wonderful things. Now, what if you want to do activity cards? So maybe the hearts would be my activity cards. So with that, I am going to take my paper, my second piece of paper, and I am going to cut like so. And then I like folding my paper first. It usually gives me a good line to cut by, super quick and easy. Okay, fold one more. And I could even fold this in half again if I wanted to, and get even more cards, but I think you get the point. So let's say you've got these activity cards. Now, I haven't named my game board yet, so think about the name of your board, because if you've ever played with games, they usually have the name here. So I have actually another game board that I've completed, and it's called the Topsy Turvy PE Sports Game. And I've actually made a couple of activity card decks that, a couple of cards just to show you. And so I've actually named the back of the card, and I put a heart. And this is a charade card. So on the back, it'll have a particular sport, and I'm supposed to pretend to be playing that sport. And charades is done quietly by the person who's acting it out, but then other people are going to guess. Now this brings me to my next thing, which are the rules. So on the back of my paper, I like to put the rules on there, and I'm going to read that out loud to everybody who's playing my game so that they will know what the rules of my game are. And there are a couple of things to kind of keep in mind as you work. So who's going to go first? Is it the one who designed the board? Is it the youngest player? High number who spins goes first? Hey, how are you going to determine when somebody's turn ends? If you say if they get it correct, whatever trivia question or activity that they may do, then will they get to spin again? Theoretically, if that person gets them all correct, it could be just one person playing the game and wins. So I recommend that if I got a wrong answer or wasn't able to do the activity, go back 2 spaces and then end your turn. If you get the answer right, you get to stay where you're at and then end your turn. Charade cards, you got 15 seconds to have everyone else guess what sport you're doing. If they're not able to guess it, then you're gonna go back 2 spaces. But if you get it right, you get to stay where you're at. And then the winner, what are you gonna do special for the winner? Maybe you could have a special paper trophy to give the one who's the winner, or maybe you'll have a special victory song that you'll sing for them that you've composed. I have winner can walk a victory lap around the room. All right, and we'll give them some nice applause for that as well. So here's my completed game board. And I tried to fill up all the spaces with special rules or trivia or opinion or activities. So really, and then I went back and I added lots of artwork in there and I made it really colorful. I tried to do trivia with one color. I tried to do activities with another color. So it looks very appealing and there's no confusion when you're playing it. I would have my deck of cards off to the side. And so now we are ready, and you can see how I outlined everything. And then I went back and colored it. If you don't outline it with like a permanent marker of some sort, be careful. If you use just regular marker, like I wanted to write this for all the words, you go to color over it with another marker, it could smear. You could color it over with your wonderful crayons you have after outlining it with a marker. That would be fine. Or if you use a lighter colored markers, you can color over the Sharpie with those lighter colors too. Be careful though. You know, if we do something that is super dark, so let's say I have this here, and I'm gonna say pick a card. And this one is going to also say the same thing. And I go to outline one of them, but I don't outline the other, and I choose a darker color to go over it. Hey, if it doesn't match up just right, just erase it, no problem. But if I choose a darker color to color over it, then let's see what happens. So here I've chosen a darker color. And you can still kind of see it. It is harder, but let's look here when we do it over the pencil line. Boy, it's pretty much all gone now. So that's why it's nice to kind of do that outline first. Or better yet, hey, you know, when you do color, just don't color so hard. Press lightly with it, and that will work maybe nicer for you to see that. And I do like to do the outlining before the coloring, because if I went back with this, the tip of the marker would pick up some of the crayon, and it would make the marker not work so good anymore. So it's nice to be able to treat our supplies with lots of respect. Okay, so on to the spinner. All right, so I could fold this if I wanted to, but I don't think it's really necessary. I'm just gonna lightly draw maybe a plus sign in the middle, and I could have 4 spaces. So the most you could move on any turn is 4. If you wanted more spaces, we could certainly get you more. You might want to do something like this, more like an X with a line through it. So if you do the X with the line through it, I'll make that a little darker so that you can see it. There you go. You're going to have 6 here, and you could have up to 6 spaces. You could do more, but let's have fun and really hit some of those spaces then. So either one would be fine. I think the 4 to make it quarters, or 6. And then we're going to put some numbers on here. So, and you can mix them up. You don't have to keep them all in order. So maybe I'll do 1, 2, 3, 6, 4, and 5. And I can even outline this and color it also to make it really fancy. I mean, why not? This is an art lesson, so we're going to make it beautiful. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the paper fastener right through the paper clip, and I like to do it in that little space that's there on that side. So right there, and we're going to push it through, and there we go. And when I do it, I'm not going to make it super tight. So if you were doing this with me using paper fasteners on the pull toy, then you know if you make it super tight, it just won't move around. So we've got a little gap right there. And now it should spin. And you can see that works out great. Tells me for sure where my number is going to be for it. And the game pieces, let's make sure this is super duper flat. There we go. We'll start on the start, and then you are ready to play. You've got everything. Oh my gosh. I wish I could see yours, because I know that they would just be amazing, just like you are. Oh, I hope that you enjoyed that lesson as much as I enjoyed teaching it. All right, so I have a super silly PE joke to tell you today. How is a great baseball team like a great pancake? They both need a great batter. Yeah, I went there. Okay, so remember, always be kind to everyone you meet. It makes a huge difference in the world. Go ahead and do something nice for someone today, and keep on making great art.